Welcome to the Live Life Rich podcast with Marissa Nielsen, where we educate, empower, and equip you with real-life strategies to navigate the core 4 areas of your life: emotional, relational, spiritual, and financial. In this podcast, we don't just survive, we thrive. Now, here's Marissa.
Hello, and welcome back to Live Life Rich. I am your host on today's podcast episode of Live Life Rich, and I have my dear, dear friend here that I have recently met, and now I am following, and I know you are going to love her. You already heard her bio going into this, but Maha, welcome to the show. Maha Bodhi is here in the house, and she's just going to pass out gold nuggets to all of us, right? You know, this is the time. It's the beginning of the year, passing out the gold nuggets. So Maha, welcome.
Thank you, Marissa. I'm so honored and excited to be here.
Yeah, I had the best time listening to you. Maha and I were both part of the North Dakota Women's Business Summit that occurred in October of 2021. And so I heard her story. I listened to her speak. I got to go to her VIP breakout session that she had for us. And I walked away and I was like, I want this woman on my podcast. She's so good. So yeah, I'm super excited to visit with you. One of the things that I loved is, could you just share with my listeners just a little bit about, I know, you had a really full story about your history and your background, but you've overcome so much to be who you are and get to where you're at and become who you've become. I'd love to have our listeners just hear a little bit about your background and your story of not only resilience, but absolute, what I would call true grit. So maybe can you give us a little background on you, Maha?
Sure, Marissa. I came from, like you mentioned, a very difficult background from a country called Yemen, which is a small kind of forgotten place in the world. It's a very poor country. 50% of the population is living below the line of poverty. And they're illiterate. They can barely read and write and barely have access to clean water, barely have access to any medical resources. And in addition to all that, there's a lot of turmoil. There's a lot of violence in that place. There's a lot of political corruption. There's, I think, about 5 different wars going on: civil wars, international wars, neighboring wars. So there's a lot of chaos and turmoil in the country itself. And in addition to that, we had violence in our own home. My mother was extremely abusive, physically, mentally, emotionally, and all that. So I had a lot going on during my upbringing. And women in that region, the only word that I can describe, are literally enslaved. They are bought and sold like sheep. Your father owns you, and then a husband comes and pays your father some money, which is called a dowry, and then you're sold to that man. And you have no say in anything in your life. And so, I was in that environment, and somehow, I managed to get out of it. I was fortunate that, my father was a diplomat. That was kind of like my golden ticket, because his job required him to travel. And so we lived in Europe and in America, and we moved every 4 years, and I went to schools in those countries. So I was able to see kind of a glimpse of what life looks like outside of that Yemen environment. Even though at home, it was always that very strict Middle Eastern environment. You are groomed to be a wife, you are groomed, and men there can marry up to 4 wives, and you have 4 sister wives all living at home, and you have to wear black from head to toe. And, I only share this not to depress your audience, but to show them
Okay. All of my sisters who are in the United States, born here and raised, can I get a little hell yeah or amen for where we were placed in the world when we came onto the planet? Because, oh my goodness, Maha. I mean, what you talk about is like the things that we see on TV. It's just so foreign to living in the United States and the world that we're born into here. So a little amen for let me be born here. All right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I just literally coming from under a rock, and I share this story, and it's not easy for me to talk about these things, but my goal is to inspire even one person that if I can do it, so can you. I literally came from under a rock when I arrived in the United States. I was at 29, almost 30 years old, and I have never had a bank account in my life. I did not know how to use an ATM. I did not know. I was buying a mattress because I needed to sleep, and I didn't know how to pay for it. The cashier had to teach me how to write a check. I didn't know how to put gas in my car. I didn't know how to use a microwave. I just want to show people how the human spirit is so strong and how your brain is so malleable. And we're going to talk a lot about this and the tools and the techniques and the healthy habits that will allow you to kind of get yourself from whatever situation you're in, that there's possibility for you to grow and to heal and to become whoever you want to become.
Yeah, that's awesome too, because we're at the beginning time of the year. And when I think about what 2021 meant to so many people and the difficulties and the challenges, and we've overcome so much with COVID, and worldwide, there's been so many challenges for people to go through in transition. We need those healthy habits. We need those things that we lean on when you got to almost go on autopilot because life is just too stressful. And I was just talking to one of my listeners in the last couple of months that one of them her son was in a terrible accident and she's nursing him back to health. I've got other ones that are dealing with, hey, my husband had a stroke or he had cancer or he had this and I'm a caretaker and I'm working full time and I'm raising my grandchildren and the pressure of life, just getting up every day, I think, you should win a gold star double high five because you got up, you just got up and I see the whole world around me at times, not everywhere, but there's parts of the world around me just falling apart. And then you wonder why half the population is medicated today. And not that medication is bad. There are people that absolutely need it. And I share with them, do what you need to do to take care of you. But is there another way? Are there some tools? Are there some things that we can put into that? And I wanted to ask you about that because when you got here, your story is fascinating, by the way. I heard Maha's full story. Well, and it's not even the full story, right? It's an hour and some change of what she gave us of her life up until now. But how long ago did you come to the United States?
It's been 16 years. I came here in 2006. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So when you think about all that you've learned from coming from that environment into this, and now I see, I saw her on a stage as a powerhouse, right? I looked at her, I was like, wow, she is awesome. I want to be her friend. I want to hang out with her. I want to do yoga with her. Right. And I started thinking to myself, wow, this is really, really good. But, one of the things that you had shared during that story was your yoga experience. And how did you get into that? And how did that kind of start for you? Now, before we go into this, I know several of my listeners, this might be a little foreign for you. Okay. So take a deep breath. We're not converting your religion here. We're just going to talk about how to breathe. So so your brain doesn't shut off. So I just tell people it's important for you to know that this is an invitation, not an expectation. It's an invitation. It's an invitation.
Absolutely, Marisa. And my teachings are based on science, and I'm really into neuroplasticity and research and understanding how the brain works and how these practices are just so healing for the brain. It's all about optimizing your thinking patterns and finding that positive way of thinking. Like you said, being a human is not an easy business. When you talked about waking up, that it's so difficult for most people. And so there is another way when your brain is kind of on that autopilot. Like you mentioned, I came from the United States with all that baggage with me. I left Yemen, but Yemen didn't leave me. There was a lot of healing for me to do and a lot of unpacking for me to do. And it was over time. It wasn't overnight. It was one day at a time, one breath at a time. For me, it was yoga. You asked me how I did it. Honestly, it started with therapy. I needed a lot of therapy, and that was amazing for me. But it reached a point where it kind of plateaued and I needed more. And so I started doing yoga. And what yoga does, it's that embodiment, it's that physical experience that really ingrains the learning in your body. So when your body starts to become stronger, what happens is that the mind begins to catch up. So the mind and the body are connected. Nothing is separate. Really, everything is connected. And then it just snowballs and it starts to impact your work. It starts to impact your relationship. You start to stand taller. You start to feel more confident, and people start to see you in a different light. You have more space and capacity to face life challenges with the breathing, with the calmness, with the clarity, and you start to see the really big picture. And then what you focus on grows, especially for those people who can barely wake up in the morning. It's what you focus on And one of the greatest tools that literally changed my life in a very dramatic way was I started really simple with a gratitude journal. And this is one of my healthy habits, where I went and I read a lot of research. In Harvard University, they have this lab. It's called the Lazar Lab. And its sole goal is to study the benefits of meditation and yoga and the impact it has on the brain. And what they noticed is that you literally change the physical structure of the brain. You increase gray matter in the brain with these mindfulness techniques. And so our brain is designed to be negative. It's designed to protect us from danger all the way, from that, they call it the lizard brain, when we were still hunting for our food. And is this thing going to eat me or am I going to eat it? And through the evolution of our species, that brain is still back there. Am I safe in this moment? And unless you deliberetely go inside and you kind of grab that steering wheel and you change the direction of your thinking pattern into a positive thinking mindset, it's not going to happen by itself. And so the gratitude journal for me, what I did is that I went and I bought a very beautiful journal. I wanted to motivate myself, and I bought a beautiful pen and I put it right next to my bed so I don't have any excuses, I don't forget. And to be honest with you, Marissa, when I first started, I didn't even know what to write in that journal. And I read somewhere that write 3 things that you're grateful for. And I remember I was sitting in my bed. I'm like, I would write just one bullet sentence. It's like, okay, what am I grateful for? My bed. I'm sitting in a very comfortable, I started really simple. I'm in a very comfortable bed, so I'm grateful for that. And I looked and my dog was next to me. I'm like, okay, I have a cute dog, my dog. And then what else? And then I was like, okay, I had a really good smoothie today, like a very fresh, green, healthy juice. So I'm going to write that down. And that it was that simple and that basic. And as I kept doing that, what happened is that my brain throughout the day began to scan my environment. And I'd run into a friend, for example, be like, oh, that's going to go in my journal. Oh, that's going to go. Oh, I got that email from my boss that said I did a great job. That's going to go in my journal. So I started to focus on what's good in my life. Mm-hmm. And now that journal, oh my God, I have so many journals right now. I go through them like babies go through diaper. And I just write pages and pages. And then when I have a bad day, what happens, Marissa, is I look back in that journal and I look at how these beautiful things that happen in my life. And it makes me feel like, wow, I do have a beautiful life.
I love that when you had shared when you had done that session on high performance habits, you'd shared about shared about the journal and really it takes about 5 minutes to do what you're talking about. And it could take long as you want, but I started years ago with journaling and doing that. And I had a series of questions. And one of the things that I was preparing for in that calendar is what do I look forward to? Like in the last, and what did I do in the last 30 days? So when I review that on a monthly basis, because I utilize the 5-minute journal, right? So it's the 3 questions. What are you grateful for? What are you doing today? Who did you serve? At the end of the day, there's an evaluations reflection. So you do 5 minutes in the morning and then you do in the evening as a reflection. And part of that process just gets your brain thinking about, man, I have all of these wonderful things that have happened during the day. And sure, you know what? Sometimes stuff hits the fan, right? And
absolutely.
If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a parent today and you got the news, your kid just crashed, your 16-year-old kid just crashed the car and you got to figure out, okay, how am I going to pay for that? Plus the new roof, plus. And that's real life for people. That's real life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But you've gone through, before you even started that, you talked about, went into therapy, and we have backgrounds that are very similar. I grew up in a very abusive household as well. From that standpoint, understanding what abuse does to your mind, especially when you're being young and formed with that, and the amount of work it takes to not repeat a pattern. So it was interesting when you had shared your story about being kind of married off.
Bought and sold twice, and it was a lot on my brain and my upbringing, my abusive mother, and then my abusive husband, and all that turmoil and trauma. You see what happens, Merce, is that from inception to age 7, those are called the formative years, when you are still new in this world and you're trying to figure out, is this world a safe place or is this world not a safe place? And you're kind of you're like a sponge, absorbing these messages and signals from your immediate environment, whether it's your parents, your caregivers, church, school, whatever it is. And then those become either deeply ingrained limiting beliefs or empowering truths. So it's depending on the environment. So a lot of common limiting beliefs that happen, especially for people who had very difficult upbringing, is that you're not good enough, or your parents or somebody told you, like, who do you think you are? Or something like, you can't trust people. That becomes a limiting belief. Or money is evil, or, good luck with that. Work is hard, all these like limiting beliefs. And then what happens is that you take these beliefs and you drag them with you all the way up until your adulthood, and you take them with you to work, and you take them with you to your relationships. And what happens is that it shapes your life. So if you take an honest assessment of your life right now is a blueprint of your limiting beliefs that is deeply stored in your subconscious mind, which is 90% of your brain function. It's that autopilot, that programming. And so if you look at your life right now and you look at the things that come easily to you, that you excel at, that you're so good at with very minimal effort, that's a result of an empowering truth. And if those things that you feel like you're stuck somehow, money, relationships, career, whatever it is, somehow you feel like you're just in a pattern, stuck in a loop. The reason behind this block is that you have a limiting belief. Somebody along the way during those formative years told you this is not for you, and you believed it, and you got stuck there.
It is fascinating, the life or death that we speak into one another. It is fascinating to me. And when I think about the things that were said to you as a child, to the things that were said to me as a child, I've recently been raising my 2.5 and 1.5-year-old grandchildren. And every night when I lay her down, we rock at my little Hazel bug. Her name's Hazel. And as I rock her to sleep, I give her the whole list, and it's a long list of all the people that love her. And now she repeats this list.
I love this.
And just last night, I'm rocking this baby, and she looks at me and she says, Grandma, all the people love me. And I said, yes, they do. They do. And she says, Pumpkin loves me, and Grandma loves me, and Grandma Peggy loves me. And she gives all the list of all the people, and Daddy loves me, and Mommy loves me. I said, yes, they all love you. And I said, do you know why they love you? Because you are amazing, and you are smart, and you are sourced, and you are resourced, and you can always find the answers, right? I just speak all of these things into her. She's 2.5, but I know based on neuroscience alone, just that we could speak life into her, or we can speak death over her.
Absolutely. Right? You're planting seeds. That's what you're doing. You're planting positive seeds that are really, really going to help her when she grows up.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love that. And so you went into this really deep therapy, which was what you needed after you've been bought and sold by your parents multiple times into relationships. I mean, that's a tough start, right? Tough start. And your story, I wish we had more time. I'd love to have you share your full story. But I do know, I think you got a book coming out. We'll talk about that at the end of this and kind of talk through some of those things. But then that led you into yoga. How did we start with that? How did you go from therapy to yoga?
My therapist told me you should try yoga. And I lived in Santa Monica for 15 years. And Santa Monica is the yoga mecca of the world. There's a yoga studio in every corner. And right across from my house, I would see a line around the block every single day. And I didn't know what is this? Is it a soup kitchen? Is it, what are people lining up for? And I stopped and I asked, and they said, it's yoga. And there's this teacher, whose name is Brian Keston. He's a master teacher, and everybody was raving about him. And so I said, you know what? I heard yoga is really good for you, and I want to try it. And to be honest with you, Marissa, I was living by the beach, and I just tried it because I wanted to be in shape. I go to the beach, I wanted to look good, and I wanted to do, all the complicated poses. That was really kind of my driver. And it ended up being a whole different ballgame. As I was shaping my body, little did I know that I was shaping my mind, and I was sculpting my mind. It really was what we call an embodiment. So in yoga, you embody. How do you learn how to ride a bike, Marissa? You don't learn how to ride a bike by reading a book about how riding a bike, by looking at someone else riding a bike, by talking about riding a bike. You learn how to ride a bike by pedaling one foot in front of the other and falling off your face and getting back up again and again and again. And it was the same thing with me with yoga. I didn't know anything. I hadn't worked out in my whole life. I was falling. I was doing everything wrong. I was sweating. I was almost passing out and blacking out. The first time I had to take Tylenol and go to sleep, my whole body was shaking. But I knew that there was something deeper and more profound about it. I felt different. I felt good. I felt at peace inside. And it was more than just a physical practice. Yoga, first and foremost, is a meditation. And what it is, and one of the definitions of yoga is the removal of the fluctuations that disturb the peace within the mind. And so that's what really did. It quieted all those stories and all the noise in my head and allowed me to see things as they truly are, like water in a lake. The more still it is, the more you're able to see all the way clearly to the bottom of that lake.
There's I don't know if you've ever studied her, but there's a cognitive neuroscientist that I've been following for several years. Her name is Dr. Caroline Leaf. And I super dig her because, this mind body, what even we put into our body connection, it was like a light bulb came on when I first heard her speak. And she talked about this source of life, and she is also a person of faith. And so I really dig her in that process, because sometimes you hear stuff and it gets a little off course for me. But, she talked about how do you connect to your source? And, I define my source as God. And so we're kind of taking it. She has a whole process that she takes you through that talks about this, and prayer and meditation are very similar in that space. And I was listening to her one day and I said, I'm going to try this. All right. I'm just sitting in my bedroom chair and I'm like, okay, clear your mind. All right. Okay. Holy Spirit, come and speak. Right. How long have I been here? Okay. And then I looked down and it's been like, I felt like I was there for 9 hours, and I'm there for 2.5 minutes. I'm like, okay, Holy Spirit, could you come and speak sooner? Like, could you, any chance you could come now? Because I'm fidgeting everywhere. And even to get still and sit in a spot. And now I've learned now I'm like, wow, I love my thinking chair. My thinking chair is the best place on the planet, right? It's like, yeah, where's grandma? Oh, she's hiding in her thinking chair. No grandma here, so I giggle a little bit about it, but this is world-renowned science around the world.
Absolutely. Yes. And I love what you said. And if, I know your listeners are entrepreneurs, and if you're new to this, and it can be confronting and it can be challenging, but solutions and creativity and inspiration come way, way more easily to an unpressured mind. Yeah. And, meditation is the best technique. And for me, I always start the beginners with, because sitting quietly, especially if you're not trained, can be very challenging. So the easiest way to get into this is really your breath, is counting the breath. And that's why breath work these days are kind of exploding in popularity. And really counting your breath, 4 breaths in, 4 breaths out. What happens is that you're giving your mind a job. You're giving it one thing to focus on. And the best thing to focus on is your breath. It's your source of life force energy that you talked about. The first thing you did when you came to this earth is you took a breath. And the last thing you're going to do when you leave this world is you're going to release a breath. So the gift of breath is truly the gift of life. And when you just sit there and you count your breath, it really settles the mind. And when you're in that clear state, you can even write down ideas, solution, inspiration, something that came to you. And those are going to be really the most incredible ideas you've ever came up with, especially if you're struggling with a problem, an issue in your business or, at home.
Okay, so entrepreneurs, there's something to this for all of you, and it's not just for entrepreneurs. I think this is really for everyone. If you've got stress, now, if you're driving your car, don't raise your hand. Okay, don't raise your hand. But if you've got any type of stress in your life, or have ever had any type of stress in your life, or expect at some point in the future to have stress in your life, this is something we want to pay attention to, right? Because we all go through seasons. And my mom used to say to me, you're either in a storm, you're coming out of a storm, or you're going into a storm. That is life. So
yes,
get ready, sister, because it's going to happen, right? It's going to happen because nobody tiptoes through the daisies of life without walking out with a little mud or a little poo on your toes, right? You just don't. And we all have to deal with it. So it's really a matter of how do we get better? And so Maha, I'm just going to ask you a big favor here. If you led us through something that was super cool, could you just take a minute or two and lead us through what you led the Women's Business Summit through on just this breathing technique, and taking a few minutes just to de-stress. Now I'm going to call this the Maha De-Stressor. Now I know you got some fancy terms for it. We're going to call it the Maha De-Stressor. Okay.
Hey, that works. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it is. Yeah.
All right. The Maha De-Stressor.
Right.
Can you take us through this?
Absolutely. So
now, if you're in your car, go back and listen to this later, okay? Because I don't want you falling off the road and then suing me. Live Life Rich. It is about all living life rich in all 5 core areas of your life: emotionally, relationally, spiritually, physically, and financially. So if you're in your car, just pause this, and when you get home, you can finish the rest.
Or
go
maybe they can pull over.
First. Yeah, or pull over, right? Yeah, just go find a place to hide from your kids.
Car too, yeah. So wherever you are, and this is the beauty of this, it can be done anywhere, even in your car. And I used to do this when I used to work in the corporate world. I go in my car and I hide there. So all you need is to be seated on a chair, on a cushion, on the floor, in your bed, wherever you are. Just sit nice and tall. Just find that length in the spine. Make sure your head is aligned right above your shoulders and your shoulders are right above your hips. You can rest your hands on your thighs or knees, just feeling very, very comfortable in your body. Close the eyes and just feel your presence behind your eyes. And just dropping your to-do lists, your tasks, your responsibility. No one wants anything from you right now. Close your mouth and through the nose, inhale all the way down to your belly, to your ribs, up to the chest. And when you're completely full, open your mouth and exhale it all out to the very, very bottom. Get empty. 2 more just like that. Full breath in, you're washing the body from the inside. And then out the mouth, letting go any stuck energy, any stagnation. Last one. Full inhale, sip in that medicine, that life force energy of your breath. And through the mouth, let it go, exhale. Now, easy does it. We're just going to count the breath. So in the nose for 1, 2, 3, 4, a gentle hold. And then out the nose, exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause, but soften and relax. Make it sweet. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Easy does it. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Last round. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Take a full breath in and a long breath out. Just keep the eyes closed for a moment and feel the after effects of what you just did. That clarity in the mind, that openness in the heart, that warmth in your belly, feeling balanced and centered. And blink your eyes open. Thank you.
Awesome. So good. I love just that we can take a moment throughout our day, and that didn't take us long, right? So if you're listening to this right now, you know that was just a couple of minutes, and you literally can do this really anywhere, right? In your car, in your bathroom, close the
Exactly.
toilet lid and hide from your kids and do this, right? Because
one of my clients, she goes into her walk-in closet, and that's what she has kids, and she said that's the only time I have for myself. And you see what happens is that you take these few minutes, and the person who does this, especially if you wake up in this way and this is the first thing you do in the morning or even midday when you start to get low on energy, the person who does this is going to make completely different quality of decisions. The food you're going to eat, the interactions that you're going to have with your team, the way you show up is going to be a whole different level. Talk about high performance mind. This is it.
Yeah. And we need this in the fast-paced business world that is coming at us all day long. I'm if you've ever done any of those personality tests or any of those kind of things, I'm a D. So I make decisions very quickly on the disc. I'm a D and I'm an I. So I want to be with people all day, and I'm a D. And so, and I've got a little tiny S, which is, your supportive people. And then I got a little itty bitty tiny C, which is I call them the bean counters. Those are the accountants of the world. And then, there's the decision makers and the party people. And so I'm that. But you think about like how many decisions we have to make a day. And then for many of us, you're just out there hustling, you're moving in, you're making things happen. You've got people that count on you, your family. And at the end, what I've learned over my almost 30 years in business is that at the end of the day, if we don't take care of us, we cannot take care of anyone else. So the hopes and the dreams and all those things that you've got placed inside of you to serve and to care for your clients and to care for your customers and to do that, if you show up half empty or a quarter full, they're going to get half empty or a quarter full. And I remember coming home from work, I'd work 10, 12-hour days, and I'd come home from work and I'd fix a little dinner and I'd help the kids with their homework. And by 8:30, 9 o'clock, I was so spent from like people in my day that started at 4 o'clock that morning that, by 10, there was nothing left, nothing. Like I would just literally lay down in my bed, look at the ceiling and be like, okay, I've got 18 things left to do and I got to do that, but I've got to get to bed by 1 o'clock because otherwise I will only get 3.5 hours of sleep. And I need at least 4 to be optimal. Like to not even be great, but just be able to get through the day. I need 4 hours of sleep. And this is real life for many, many, many people right now.
Exactly. You're not the only one going through this. A lot of people live that way. And, you're sending your energy out throughout the entire day. So you have to make time to bring the energy in. You can't just exhale. You need to inhale and you need to fill your cup until it overflows and you give only from your overflow.
Yeah. I had that I don't know what the syndrome is, but whatever that little syndrome was, where the save everybody syndrome, and I'm a CEO, right? So I'm a CEO, and in my mind for about 20 years, here's what I called the CEO duty. It was not chief executive officer of my multi-million-dollar companies. It was the chief everything officer. Right. So I felt like everything came to me, everything, and so until I realized that there are other ways, right? That there are other things I can do here, and I don't have to be dead by the time I'm 50, and I can live a really great life without a heart attack or a stroke in the midst of it.
Yeah.
One of the things that you shared with the group that we had that day was about high performance habits. And that really sang to me because I've, for many years, studied this from everything from hydrating first thing in the morning, which is, I do it every morning. I have a water bottle that sits by my bathroom sink and I fill it up and I hydrate and I stretch, and I've got some high performance habits. But can you share with us, because you do this with your coaching clients,
Yes.
which of course you guys heard this in the front end of my intro of Maha, but she is a high performance coach. And so she teaches everything from yoga to high performance habits and really coaching her C-suite and executive level. But I think it's not just C-suite and executive level. Let me put corporate America on the back end here for a minute. If you're running a small business on Main Street in Max, North Dakota, or in Rapid City, South Dakota today, or in Melbourne, Florida, wherever you're at today, you're running your small home-based business. At the end of the day, or not even home-based business, maybe you got a retail business that's out there. We all love this. All of us need this. And so these high performance habits will help us get there, but do it in a way where you don't feel like you're dead at the end of the day. So can you walk us through kind of, Maha's top 5 or top 10, however much time you want to give us?
Yeah, absolutely. You see, I study leaders just like you. I'm in the leadership development business. And like you mentioned, I don't care if you work at Starbucks or you're CEO of a multi-billion company. You want to show up as a leader in your life, even if you're leading your own life. That's what it's called. Yeah. You're leading your life. Yeah. And so what I noticed that the high performers, any human being who achieved extraordinary thing, and really everybody is just an ordinary person and they just achieved extraordinary things. And there's a formula to it. So whether, high performers, athletes, whether CEOs, celebrities, artists, these really extraordinary people, it's not by chance, it's not by luck. They have a system in place. They don't wake up in the morning and roll out of bed and just hope for the best. They wake up in a very deliberate and intentional way. I talked about journaling, writing 3 things you're grateful for. I feel number 1 for me on this list is keeping your phone, any digital screens you have, completely off. What happens is that most people wake up, check their emails, check their texts, and get bombarded by life. And now you're playing defense. Now you're like, what does life want from me? And I need to react to that. Versus when everything is off, you're setting the tone. Now you're playing offense. I get to decide how I experience my day today. I call the shots.
That's right.
And so everything is on.
Oh, preach it, Maha. Preach it. Yes, preach it.
This is a big one. It really is a big one. And if anything, it will make you, this is all about quality and high performance mind. I'm not saying, just ditch your email and, slack on your work. No, that's the opposite of that. And so you wake up, you make your bed. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. In the military, they make them do their bed. And so your place of rest can't be distressed. Your place of rest needs to be inviting and welcoming and calm. And so that's number 1. You hydrate, you drink a lot of water. When we sleep, our body gets dehydrated, and 90+% of our body and our brain is made out of water. And so you need to keep fueling your body, fueling your brain, hydrate. And then we just did the breathing exercise, just breathe a few breaths, oxygenate the blood, create that blood flow using your own breath. Write 3 things you're grateful for. You're setting that tone. It will elevate your energy. When you think about something you're grateful for, a person you're grateful for, if it's a person, I actually want you to even say it to them if they're nearby, or text it to them, because it doubles. You're building that bridge. And then what happens, your heart opens up. There's a smile on your face. You lifted your energy. Move your body. It doesn't have to be an Olympic athletic performance. Move your body 10 minutes, 15 minutes, run, walk your dog, go out in nature, go see the sun. The sun gives a lot of vitamin D. That's really also good for your brain and for your immune system overall. And then you want to take a shower. You want to dress for success, even if you're working from home. And I know a lot of people are working from home these days, especially if you're a female. I work with women a lot. Dressing up for us is something different. When you look at yourself in the mirror, you want to be proud of yourself. You want to look good. You feel good. And also nutrients. You want to really eat a healthy breakfast. A lot of people skip breakfast. You want to eat something very whole foods, whether it's like an oatmeal, whether it's a green juice, try not to avoid like the greasy stuff, the high salt stuff. And so when you do these things, the person that wakes up in this way is going to have a completely different experience throughout the day. And what I also like to add is a lot of people focus on, example, 3 goals that they want to achieve. I like to also add to this personal goals. I like to add to this, how do I want to feel today? Write it down. What do I want to feel today? Do I want to feel joyful? Do I want to feel generous? Do I want to feel kind? Do I want to feel optimistic? Choose a feeling that you resonate with and write it down on a sticky note, stick it on your computer and commit to it. No matter what life throws at me today, I will still feel this way. And that comes back to being, the decision maker in your life. You are the creator of your experience, not the victim of your circumstances. So those are the morning habits. I also have evening habits. I like to have an anchor in the morning and an anchor in the evening. And then in between, you have these mini 5-minute or 10-minute breaks. What you're doing is you're checking in with yourself. So this is a relationship that you have with yourself. And just like any other relationship, whether you're at home or at work, you check in, right? You have one-on-one meetings, you set a time for it, and you ask questions and you assess the situation. You want to do that with yourself, because the way you treat yourself, the way you love yourself, the way you take care of yourself is how you train and teach other people how to treat you and how to love you and how to look at you.
So true. It's so true. I love these high performance habits that you're talking about, and they're for everyone. And wouldn't the world look great if we taught this to our families, if we taught this to our life mate, to our spouses, to our children? How much better would your day be for your kid, your son or daughter that's going to school today? They see you as an entrepreneur. They see you as a busy business owner. They see you, maybe you're doing that, plus you're working a side hustle today, and going to work for somebody else, plus your side hustle. And they see you striving for something. Mm-hmm. But when they see you not taking care of yourself, and I did this for years. When I got divorced back in 2013, I was 60, 70 pounds overweight. When I found out kind of everything was going to pot in my life, blowing up in smoke, I remember getting on a treadmill, and my motivating factor for getting on the treadmill every day, here's what I said to myself, and Maha's going to be like, oh, that is bad energy, bad juju, bad mojo, whatever it is. But I got on there, and my motivating factor was get hot, get even. I literally said it multiple times. I just got on that, and I pounded it out on the treadmill. And then later on, I realized my body was looking better and I was feeling better from that standpoint, but my mind didn't feel better because I was bringing all that negative junk with me. Get hot, get even. And by the way, it did work because I'm no longer 60, 70 pounds overweight, but I was an angry person for a long time. And then when I let that go and I said, you know what, love yourself enough. And that's what I say to myself now. Love yourself enough to get up and stretch and drink your water. And I have a go-to list in my phone. It's the Refuel My Soul list in my phone. It's music. It's different types of messages that I've heard. I listen to Pastor Stephen Furtick. I listen to different, motivational speakers and different things like that. And I literally take this every single day when I'm in the shower. And once I've got my breathing and my stretching and those things done, and I've got my 5 minutes, right, then I get into the shower and I listen to something motivating to refuel my soul first thing in the morning. Just like I'm refueling it with water and the stretch, I want to put good things in. My grandma used to say to me, garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly. I love that.
So how you start your day is
how you live the whole day.
Yeah,
it sets the tone for the rest of your day. And how you start your day is how you live your day, and how you live your day is how you live your life.
Yeah. These small actions over time lead to great change. You've heard me say it many, many times on this show. Small actions over time lead to great change. So just take those three. If you just did those three things, just three. Start with your water, your stretching and your movement. I call it the 7-minute stretch. I got 7 minutes. I do it for 7 minutes, which
perfect.
I'm definitely not an Olympic, runner today, but I'm working on it, right? I'm a work in progress. And the other thing I think is very interesting, I love this about some of the messaging that I heard from you that day, was be kind to yourself. Mm-hmm. If you fell off yesterday and you didn't get it all quite perfect because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Today's a new day. You woke up above ground. Say, give me a hell yeah or an amen. And
you want to set yourself up for success. So if it's all or nothing, that mentality, most likely because life is going to throw things at you, especially if you have kids, you're busy, you have work, you're going to fall off track, and that's completely normal. And just like any kid, that falls off track, what do? You bring them back with compassion and kindness. And you want to have that same kind of voice in your head, that same quality, the voice in your head. And I talk about that a lot, needs to be your greatest cheerleader, your best friend, the parent that you never had, your best coach. So really the way you talk to yourself is really, really powerful and important.
So when we train our brain, we train everything else in our world. When we train our bodies and our brains, and I talk about the mind-mouth connection. When you're thinking about it and you're stewing on it, I call it stewing on it. When you're mad about something and you're stewing on it, the quicker we can let that go. It's my 5x5 rule. If it doesn't matter in 5 years, don't spend more than 5 minutes, right? Yeah. The 5x5 rule. And so thinking into that for your life today, I want to encourage all of you. I know you're in here, you're in the room with me and Maha, just listening to this today, and you're saying, well, I don't have time for that. Here's what I'm going to challenge you this week. Here's my Maha challenge. Are you ready, listeners? Yes, Live Life Rich community. Give me a little fist pump in the air.
Yes, let's do it, Marissa.
Let's do it. Here's my Maha challenge this week. I want you to challenge yourself. Take the breathing exercise that she just did with you. And you can listen to this over and over again. The great thing about podcasts is, number one, they're free. Yay for you. And not so good for me because I'm paying for this thing. But I'm sowing good seeds in the world. So it is worth every penny. But number two, they're free. But number two, they're always here for you. You can do this. You can start today. You can start tonight. You can start with a notebook, and you can get one of those $1 notebooks from Walmart or Target. This does not have to be fancy. Now you can make it fancy, but if you say, I don't have the extra $25 to go to Barnes and Noble and buy a fancy pen in this, then don't. I started life from a 2-bedroom trailer court with 8 kids and my mom with no heat in a North Dakota winter. You can start wherever you're at right now. And Maha is living proof of that. She came to this country with nothing and no one. And I see her now as this just sourced and resourced, amazing life speaker into the world. And I think, you can too. You can too. And this is for all of us, for men, for women, for all of us, because the people around you depend on you. They need you. The world needs you rich. I say it every single session, every single time. Repeat after me. The world needs me rich. The world needs me rich. And say it 10,000 times if you must, but the world needs you rich emotionally, relationally, spiritually, physically, and financially. They need you rich in all areas of your life, because people like you and me, and people like you and me and Maha, we know that life can be beautiful and it can be amazing. It can also be harsh and it can be unforgiving sometimes, but life is up to us. And so I love how you start the day and that you give practical strategies on how to do that. Now, Maha, I know that you also have a groovy newsletter. I'm gonna bring some old school words back. You have a groovy newsletter out there that our listeners can subscribe to. And the very first thing that they're going to get when they subscribe is all these and we only went through, by the way, guys, a few of these because she's got a list for the morning. She's got a list for the evening. So if you subscribe to her newsletter, you're going to get the very first thing that you're going to get is the download for all these high performance habits. Now, I've had other coaches, I've had other mentors on my podcast, but I was waiting for the right high performance person. And I wanted somebody who didn't just learn it in a book, because that's really nice. I love that. That's great. And for all of you that, went to Harvard or Stanford and have MBAs in yada, 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 PhDs in whatever, awesome. Like, good for you. I'm celebrating you in this moment. Fist pumps for you for academic brilliance. I really enjoy surrounding myself, as I know many of my listeners do, with people who have done it from nothing. And Maha came from nothing. I listen to her story and I'm very selective of who I have on the podcast. She came from nothing and took that and built not only just a life, but a great life for her family. And now she's spreading seeds all around the world like this for you. And I know, how do they get to you, Maha? We'll have the link in the chat. We'll have it on our social media, in the podcast notes.
So it's womeninleadership.space. So it's not .com, it's .space. And you can sign up to the newsletter. And it's kind of like an executive coach in your inbox. So you get these nuggets of wisdom, you get practical tools, practical techniques. And like you mentioned, immediately you're going to get the 10 habits right away when you click that subscribe button.
Awesome. And then I know you from time to time, you have yoga retreats. So you definitely want to get on her newsletter because she'll be able to announce those. So if you say, man, I kind of dig this yoga thing, and it's not what you think. You do not have to, you do not have to be a size 2 to go to a yoga retreat. You have to have the desire to be growing and moving forward. So this is the worst part about back in 2011 and 12 and early 13, grossly overweight. There's no way my size 22 butt is going to get into some yoga pants and go to the gym and work out with the size 2 chick that looks like she just walked out of the Vogue magazine. Like it is not happening, right? It is not happening. So I bought a treadmill and did it at home because literally I was just so embarrassed to walk into that environment because I didn't have a perfect body, right? And you think you have to be perfect before you start. Well, the reason you start is because nobody's perfect. Yeah,
exactly. How are you going to get into that body and really what you discover, like you mentioned, that it really doesn't even become about the body anymore. It doesn't become about the pose. By the time you get in that shape, you don't even notice because you just had such an incredible journey and you feel so much better from the inside. So it's really, I call it's a work in versus a work out.
Yeah. I call it my whip. I'm a work in progress always. I got a whip file for everything and I'm a work in progress. So I love that. And I know you also have a book coming out this next year.
I'm writing my memoir. Yeah. I'm writing, every time I talk to somebody, they're like, this needs to be a book. This needs to be a book. And we even filmed a docu-series that's going to be on HBO. So, and now I'm in the final stages of writing the book. So it's going to come out soon. Be on the lookout. And if you're on my newsletter, you're going to be the first person to read it.
Love it. Love it. Well, Maha, you are doing great work in the world. I know your clients are blessed because they know you and they receive the opportunity to invest their time with you. I'm a big, I'm an investor. So I love to see people who are investing in the world and making a difference. And you, my dear, are making a difference. So well done.
Thank you.
On all your grit. Because you've overcome so much and you're an inspiration to all of us. And so I would highly suggest you subscribe to this. Now, before we go, I always ask the question of Maha, how do you live life rich? And all of my podcast guests, I ask that question of how do you live life rich? And for all of my listeners, we define that emotionally, relationally, spiritually, physically, financially, because it's not just in one area. I know a lot of broke, unhappy, rich people, like wealthy, I got billions of dollars rich. And I know some of the happiest on the planet, what would be financially not really wealthy people. And so, we define that as really a whole presence in your life. Tell me about that for you and how you live life rich today.
So for me, I truly believe like happy is the new wealthy, and healthy is the new sexy. And for me, it's all about what are you bringing? What energy are your presence? What energy does it bring? Whether it's to the mailman, whether it's to your neighbor. For me, I like when people encounter me, when they see me, they feel positive, they feel good about it. So when they think, oh, today I saw Maha, they think of it in a very positive way. And that is a deposit in your energy bank account. So imagine if 100 people or 200 people thought of you in that way. Every time your name comes up, they think of you in a positive way. How wealthy are you going to be?
Yeah, that's so good. That's my love list, by the way. So at the end of the day, at the end of the day, I have a reflections part of my journal, and it's the love list. Who did I love on today? Who did I show love to today? Who did I walk out? Because for me, it's how I walk out my life and how I walk out my faith is through showing love. And so, how did I do that? Who did I serve? And did I make it?
And you know what? And the cherry on top, the bonus is that can actually lead to financial abundance and prosperity, because guess what? People are going to want to work with you. People are going to want to collaborate with you. People are going to want to buy from you. People are going to want to just be around you when you're that positive, loving, kind person.
Yeah. Oh, it encompasses everything. And, the energy bank account, the love list, the things that, we all define it a little bit differently, but I love it. And I think you are so spot on with it. So I want to thank you again for being here with us today.
You.
If you like this podcast today, like it, share Maha with the world. We need big thinkers. We need high performance in our world to show up as the best version of ourselves. And it's waiting for you, because the world needs you rich. So until we meet again, I hope you live life rich.